planet we're on is so sick of our shit.
I'm not. What if my baby isn't either?
Anyone can come in here and infect this entire camp.
Spoiler warning, Blood Quantum ending isn't just shocking, it's a lie. Buckle up, because this breakdown will rewrite everything you thought you knew. The film begins with a fisherman pulling a large number of fish from the river. He brings them ashore, begins cleaning and gutting them. But then something strange happens. One of the fish, whose stomach had already been cut open, starts moving. Moments later, it begins jumping violently, and soon, the other seemingly dead fish also start twitching and leaping. The fisherman is shocked. He's never seen anything like it. Meanwhile, we're introduced to a sheriff who is driving his police car. He's responding to a call from a local man. Upon arriving at the man's home, the sheriff asks what the issue is. The man shows him his dog, which is in a terrible state and barely breathing. The sheriff, alarmed, asks what happened, and the man suggests the dog may have accidentally ingested poison he had placed around the house for rats, though he isn't sure. The animal is in immense pain, and with no hope of recovery, the sheriff ends its suffering with a gunshot. When the sheriff returns home, his wife informs him that the police have arrested their son Joseph, who is his biological child, and her stepson. She clearly shows favoritism toward her child and expresses disdain for Joseph, blaming his odd behavior. She urges the sheriff to act quickly and get the boys released. However, the sheriff remains calm and insists that he doesn't act in haste. Next, he visits his father, the same fisherman from earlier, and is shown the fish that had inexplicably come back to life. The sheriff, also puzzled, advises not to overthink and suggests they burn the fish. But when he goes to fetch a petrol can from the trunk of his car, he is horrified to find the dog he had shot earlier is now alive and aggressive. The dog attacks him, and the sheriff is forced to shoot again, this time in the head, finally killing it. The sheriff and his father then burn the fish and the dog together to eliminate whatever force is bringing dead creatures back to life. Afterward, the sheriff heads to the police station to free his sons. Inside the holding cell, Joseph and his stepbrother are locked up with a sick man who has been vomiting blood. Joseph, irritated by the man's worsening condition, tells him to die already. Suddenly, the man spews blood, horrifying the boys. They scream for help, and the sheriff and another officer rush in. The officer assumes the boys hurt the man, but as he approaches, the man leaps up, grabs him by the neck, and slams him against the wall. The officer is bitten on the chest. Joseph intervenes and punches the man, but he, gets bitten on the hand. The officer manages to grab a metal rod and bludgeons the attacker until his skull splits open, killing him. Joseph later goes to the hospital to get his wound treated and meets his wife, who reveals she is pregnant. They initially consider not keeping the child, fearing the dangerous world they live in, but then change their minds and decide to raise the baby. It soon becomes evident that something terrible is happening across the entire city. Dead people are coming back to life, and the sick are behaving like vicious animals, biting others. One night, the sheriff receives a distressing call about a woman who bit her newborn baby. He rushes to her home, finds her acting erratically, and is suddenly attacked. She bites him, and in self-defense, he beats her to death with a rod. 6 months pass, and the cause of the chaos is finally revealed: a global outbreak of a zombie virus. Those bitten become infected and transform into zombies. Humanity is in ruin. Some survivors have managed to isolate themselves, forming protected colonies with walled enclosures to keep the undead out. Joseph and the sheriff discover that they, and others with brown skin, carry a special trait in their blood that resists the virus. Their wounds heal quickly, and they don't turn into zombies after being bitten. White individuals, however, lack this resistance and are easily infected. That Joseph's stepbrother, who is white, becomes increasingly paranoid and hostile. He refuses to let any white outsiders into the safe zone, fearing they could carry the infection. One day, a white woman, recently bitten, is secretly allowed in without revealing her condition. Joseph and his wife, who is also white, become worried for their unborn child. They've heard of cases where infected babies eat their mothers from the inside. Joseph tries to calm her fears. Later, while the sheriff is away gathering supplies, his stepbrother drunkenly approaches the infected woman. She suddenly turns, her body deteriorating, eyes bloodshot, and mouth foaming. She attacks him, tearing a piece of his flesh. Screaming, he is discovered by others, including Joseph. They restrain the girl. Joseph rushes his stepbrother to their mother, a nurse, but the injury is too severe. Consumed by rage, the stepbrother blames Joseph and his father for bringing the woman into the community. In a fit of madness, he stabs Joseph in the stomach and then opens the colony gates, letting the zombies in. The sheriff's wife radios her husband, telling him that most of their people have been killed and only a few survivors are trapped in a room. The sheriff devises a plan. One of his men drives a car through the streets to lure the zombies away with noise, while the sheriff and his father sneak in to rescue the others. The plan works, and most are saved, but while rescuing Joseph's wife, the sheriff is attacked by zombies and torn apart. Heartbroken, the survivors escape in a car. Soon, they receive a radio message from a woman inside a church. She claims Joseph's stepbrother and his companions have imprisoned her and others. Moved, the sheriff's father heads toward the church to rescue them. Car. Joseph's wife goes into labor. Suddenly, Joseph's stepbrother appears, holding them at gunpoint. He brings a zombie with him, planning to have Joseph's wife bitten. Before he can act, Joseph's mother shoots him. But the zombie attacks Joseph's wife, biting her. Joseph kills the zombie by decapitating it, but his wife, in tears, tells him she's infected and pleads with him to save their child. Blinded by rage, Joseph stabs his stepbrother and leaves him behind as zombie bait. The creatures rip him apart brutally. Joseph then gathers his family and flees to the riverbank. They board a boat and escape to a small deserted island in the river, where his wife safely gives birth. Holding the newborn in his arms, Joseph announces with relief and pride, "Our daughter is born." Together, they set off toward a safer future. And so, the story ends. Blood Quantum. The ending shocks viewers with its brutal sacrifice and emotional resolution. But what if that final act isn't what it seems? Throughout the film, we're led to believe that the sheriff dies a noble hero, sacrificing himself so others can live. But subtle clues suggest a darker twist. The idea that indigenous people are immune to the zombie virus raises questions about how the infection actually works. Some theorists believe the sheriff wasn't killed by zombies at all, but chose to stay behind for reasons beyond just protection. Was it guilt? A deeper plan? Or is it possible he knew the virus was evolving, and he didn't want to risk carrying it further? Even more shocking, the final scene with Joseph, his wife, and their newborn daughter raises doubts. The child is born healthy, despite the mother being bitten. This hints at a possible cure or a terrifying mutation. If the child is immune because of mixed heritage, then everything about the virus, its origins, and its future could be far more complicated than we were told at. Was the ending heroic? Finuel could survive the Blood Quantum world? Tag a friend who'd fail miserably. Don't forget to subscribe, unless you're scared of the truth. Our next video reveals the lie the director tried to bury.